What is going on, everybody? My name is Dr. Oolong. I am the Mad Doctor of Spark. With me yet again is Ultra David. Ultra David, how's it going?
I'm really excited to be here. We just saw some fantastic matches for the EU
Yeah, we just saw some
Blaston
incredible matches. Again, congratulations to Tess. Huge stuff going on there for sure. Super great to see him bring out such a wide variety of weapons too against Monty, and seeing Monty almost make that climb all the way back up to win the bracket. So super spectacular matches. We're going to have even more amazing matches for you today in the NA bracket. So this is our continuation from yesterday. We're going to be starting off where we left off with Weso and WudiPlays in just a bit. Then we're going to be going back to Cronster and Tim. Winner of those are going to move forward to the semifinals, and the losers, unfortunately, are going to be eliminated from the bracket. So super exciting matches. And David, I saw in chat on those previous matches that you actually have been compiling some statistics for us.
I have been, yeah. I've actually been keeping track of which guns have been used in every single game throughout the weekend so far. For the biggest reason is that, I want to follow it myself so that I know what to say, I know what's going on, because, easier for me to keep track of stuff like that if I have it written down. But, yeah, it's had interesting side effects of, allowing me to actually see which weapons have been used the most and which the least, which is pretty cool. Raptor E is by far the most used. Now, I just want to say, just because it's on the top of that doesn't mean I'm not trying to say that therefore anything, right? You can't really learn that lesson. It could be, for example, that maybe a lot of the uses of the Raptor E have been in longer sets because somebody wasn't able to dominate because they're using crappy weapons like the Raptor E. Now, maybe not, right? But that's just want to caution that you can't immediately learn the lesson so therefore anything in particular. But it is really interesting to track it nevertheless and see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, hey, you can see, in that last matchup with Tess, as long as you've got the skills, and at the end of the day, as long as you're dodging correctly, you can bring a wide variety of weapons and get away with a lot of stuff. Totally making sense there. So yeah, we are going to be heading into our final matches of each side of this bracket, as you just saw. Then we'll be getting into our semifinals, and then finally our grand finals for the NA bracket, as well as that third place match, making sure that everyone gets paid out. And I mean, just looking at the EU rewards, people are getting paid out quite a bit in this tournament.
That's right, yeah. We have a total of $10,000 on the line for the prize pool. That's the complete overarching amount throughout the weekend. For the NA finals, winner will get $3,000. Now, even the 8th place players will be getting $125, so everybody has gotten something, which is great. But there's a big separation between some of these. So first place is $3,000, second place is $2,000, third place is $1,000. Then we're down to $750 for fourth, and then fifth will get $250. So what is on the line right here, as these two get ready to go, Weso and Woody, is the difference between loser getting 5th place and winner moving on, where they could get all the way up to third. So that is to say, fifth, $250, fourth, $750. So right away, the difference between winning and losing this is a $500 amount. So there is a bunch going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Seems like we are having a bit of a bit of technical difficulties here. Maybe not quite heading into that match. Maybe things are going a little bit wrong. So we got Weso, who we saw, the Dancing Queen himself yesterday, heading up against Woody. So Woody in the past was known as this, double Viper, very hardcore, very high damage dealing player. Although I feel like most of that kind of has swapped, mostly because the Luma is just such an attractive option now for a lot of people who still want that low cooldown and that damage to be coming out.
Yeah, just looking back at what Woody was playing with yesterday, I'm looking at not a Viper at all in the second set that he had. He had a Luma. He did have that. He had a Raptor E. As everybody basically does. And in the first set that he played as well, the same thing. He didn't have Vipers at all. His build was Raptor Ellipse, Hurricane, Hammer Nade, Wildcat, Raptor, and Luma. Now that was a loss, right?
You got the quick eyes right there. My goodness!
Look, I've been writing it all down. This is why I like to have this conversation.
That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah,
again, and we're gonna see this trend. I feel like especially as we get further and further into the finals, of players, really wanting to make every single one of their weapons count. Not having to spread themselves too thin, not trying to go for any too many meme builds. I feel like we might see some of that later, but I really feel like these players are going to start really bunkering down, playing what they're good at, and being very, very good at this grand and glorious game of Blaston. We are currently loading into this match. It seems like there was an error in the room on one of the sides, and we are going to go ahead and jump in. From Woody's side, we got that slow fall Hurricane, fast Wildcat, the bursting Raptor, which we've also seen quite a bit of that bursting Raptor today as well, huh?
Yeah, that's true.
Or I'm sorry, this weekend. Weekend. We've seen a bit of it today overall, but we've definitely seen a lot of it this weekend. Whoa, right! Oh, wow! And right off the bat, Woody's going to take a lot of damage from Weso's. I believe that was from the Luma. My goodness. Starting us off very, very strong in the first 15 seconds here from Weso's side.
Wow, okay, good chunk down there on Woody, who turns around briefly to grab the weapons, trying to get things going for himself. He does have the Luma. Okay, finds some hits.
Ooh, my goodness!
Right back at him, though.
Again. Woody's trying to he's taking one step forward, 2 steps back here against Weso as he continues to pelt him with that Luma. Hurricanes are coming down, though. He might have the setup here. He might be able to squeeze him into a corner, but no, Weso actually using the, I believe that was the Raptor Ellipse, to squeeze his way out of that Hurricane fire.
A little bit of a setup, ducking way down there as Weso, way down to the floor.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, not again. Not again.
Yeah, you could see by
the Blaston gremlins are getting into Woody's system, it seems.
Oh, no, dude, I love the actual IRL emoting that you could see.
Yeah.
Right there.
Well, that's one of the key differences between, virtual reality games like this and normal games. You see a lot of your opponent's body language. We talked just a brief bit about it yesterday. That mental fortitude, not really showing it if the cracks are there. But always a good sport. Worst case scenario when stuff pauses, but unfortunately, technical difficulties do happen even at this level of play.
Sure.
We should be getting into things in just a second again, but already we're seeing just the dominance of that Luma and also coming at the Hurricane from two different sides. Weso running that fast fall and Woody running the slow fall. Seems like a lot of players are using that to sort of create an impenetrable wall of bullets to sort of sink down on their opponent.
I think it's really interesting that one weapon, many of these do have this, but I like the idea that in this game there are weapons that have such different utility based on which attachment you have. Yeah, the great example with the Hurricane, right? Do you want the slower moving pellets? Do you want the faster moving ones? Obviously the slower ones can create that blanket that lasts for longer, but also on the other side of things, the fast falling ones make it so that there's more of an immediate threat. You really need to immediately tackle if you're the defender. And both of those things can be backed up in different ways. They can allow you as the attacker to get different combos going. So even just the choice of an attachment has a huge impact on your own utility in the match.
Right, you can run two of the same loadout, and different attachments can approach those weapons in a completely different way. And I think with some weapons it has somewhat of a better effect than others, but I really love the fact that Resolution's kind of given us a way of really honing in on what we want each one of these weapons to do in our loadout. Again, especially at this level of play, you want all of your weapons to be have enough diversification that you can cover a lot of different situations, but really each weapon should have its own role in your build, its own role in the main combos that you're putting out. And ultimately, you should have a strategy with each one of the weapons in your build going into each game.
Sure.
We are currently experiencing these technical difficulties on Woody's side. So I'm curious though about this continued analytics that we are taking. You might not have it right off the top of your head, but what weapon do you think has done the most damage?
Ooh, that one is definitely going to be tougher to say, of course, right? Since some of the utility here is not necessarily based on what is the most damage. I think that's partly what you could say about the Raptor E. But then you look at the third most used is the Aegis Shield. So we're not talking about damage necessarily. Second is Wildcat. Third is Luma. So, maybe that is the one to think about having done the most actual damage. The other big damage stuff is a little bit further down. Viper's at, what are we at? 10th in overall usage. So, yeah, I would say maybe it's the Luma, just looking at the stats.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with you for sure there. I think that there's, again, you really want to mix, you really want to make the most out of each one of the slots on your build. And I think players at this point already kind of know that if they're going to have a damage-dealing weapon, they might as well use both hands to fire it, kind of set up something, and then go in with the Luma for a ton of damage. Even compared to the Viper, which sits at, a very similar cooldown, again, just that rate of fire. Sometimes players are hitting one, sometimes they're hitting 2 shots just in a row, managing to catch their opponent off guard. So, obviously, a very strong option. I'm very surprised that Aegis Shield you said it was the third most run?
Third most games, right? Again, talking about individual games here, not like how many players used it. It's a different metric. But, in terms of games, currently it's Raptor Ellipse, then it's Wildcat, then it's Aegis Shield, then Luma, and then Hammer Nade, in fact. Hammer Ellipse...
Hammer Nade is another one that we've seen just a lot throughout this set. Really becoming the dominant nade for our players to use. And most of it has been that extra spread variant. Players really prioritizing a little bit of extra damage over a much higher spread, making it harder to hit your opponent. But when you do, it does slightly more damage. But if 3 pellets hit with the extra spread, that's 18 damage versus only 12 that you'd get with the normal Hammer Nade. So, those small differences in damage do manage to add up over the course of a match, especially when in so many of these matches, they're being decided sometimes by less than 10 points.
I think my subjective take on this in terms of the most seen ones, I would have said Raptor Ellipse, that's showing up everywhere. But I think the second one I would have said is Hammer Ellipse. And it is not. It's not in the top 5, actually. It's 6th. It's down at 6th. So it's not like far behind from some of the other ones, but it's way down there compared to where the Raptor Ellipse is at. That's 95 uses versus 58. So pretty significant difference. Now, obviously, we still have a bunch of games left to go, and that may have a big impact on stuff like this. So we'll see. But interesting to track. I've also been tracking the cooldowns, the total average cooldowns.
Ooh, okay, whoa, okay, all right.
I'm trying to find out.
Lay it on me. That's it. That's interesting to me. I'm a big Nova math guy, so.
There you go. So in EU day number 1, the average was 22.3 seconds. That's in total. Not dividing it by guns, but you can divide by 6 to figure it out for yourself. Then EU Day 2, 21.97. So very similar, right? Only 0.3-ish, 0.34 away. NA, though, day number 1 is 23.3. So, that may be getting toward the, statistically significant amount of difference compared to the EU, don't you think? It's a 1.33 second difference compared to the EU.
Yeah, and the thing that really interests me here is, again, players approaching that soft cap that we very briefly mentioned yesterday. I believe it was actually during one of Tesseract's matches. There is a 27-second hard or soft cooldown stop. If you go over that, your weapons do start to stall on the spawns. 27. I'm losing it now. Someone correct me if it is 25 seconds in chat. I'll go ahead and look. But yeah, players, again, just kind of approaching that limit, getting fairly close. And, if you think about that, 23 seconds throughout the course of a match, that means that you can only really use your full loadout roughly 5 times throughout the course of a match. So very interesting statistics there. That's awesome. And, even just kind of comparing the two, it seems like as these matches go on, the using lower cooldown weapons kind of becomes more important. We've seen that in this higher level play with the swap away from the double Viper to utilizing the Luma more as just your general purpose damage dealing weapon. I wonder if we're going to see the same sort of change coming from NA today.
It's interesting that different regions have their own takes on stuff. This is something I find in all the games that I've paid attention to over the years, fighting games or RTS or whatever it is that I've really paid attention to in the past. It's always the case that different regions have different takes on games. Even when you have communities, like there's a great Discord. We've been talking about people going to discord.gg/Blaston where you can talk about this stuff. Even when there are communities that are established online, even when you're watching other people play, it's still the case that regionality exists. So I'm not surprised to see that it's here as well.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, just to mention it too, even if even if you don't own a virtual reality headset, we'd still love to have you over there on the Discord again. Lots of smaller tournaments happening all the time. You know, between VRML and the Blaston Championships, that's obviously taking up a lot of our bandwidth. But, you know, now that we're getting back into the winter season, sort of, you know, calming down after the excitement of, gosh, the last 6 months straight of, you know, really intense tournament play and matches. You know, now's a great time to get into the competitive side of Blaston. We just saw Woody actually kind of talking about it. You know, never really had a plan to become a top Blaston player, but as long as there's, you know, avenues for players to show off their skill, regardless of the prize pool, it seems like players are going to step up to that challenge and really, you know, test their skills in this sort of professional environment. I believe we are still going ahead. We're checking that production.
Hey,
but let's go ahead and actually take a look at this prize pool.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about it a little earlier. Oh, we already know some of them, of course. But first place, again, $3,000 US dues. You got all the way down there in the 7th places, tied for 7th. Master 17 and Baby Spine, who unfortunately for them were eliminated yesterday. They have ended up, though, with $125 even still. So just for having made it this far, they get that. Now, something we've talked quite a bit about yesterday was how this has been quite a long ongoing process of players qualifying for this, both in ranked queue and in community events and in last chance qualifiers. So it's not like they just yesterday decided to come in, okay, I'll play in this tournament. No, it's been a long process. So I'm really happy that for all of the players, there is money at the end of the day for them. Look, having community cred and having the victories and the competitive aspect, like that's, if you're a competitor, like that is in most cases what you're really out for. But it's really nice to get $125 there at minimum as well.
Yeah, and you know what? What I always say is that without getting paid, it isn't professional esports. Otherwise, it's just esports. So, you know, again, thanks so much to Resolution Game and all of our sponsors for really, again, giving us an avenue to be able to play and show off our skills. And giving just all of us the opportunity to sort of explore this new world of esports. I feel like it was just yesterday that, you know, some major games were starting to be streamed professionally with these huge broadcast companies, and really hoping that Blaston can sort of take the ranks as one of those spectator sport games going into the next couple years of play. But, you know, like you said, all these players have been in this for 6 months at the very least, building up points and qualifying for these championships. But, you know, you got to start somewhere. You got to start playing in tournaments at some point. So, especially as a lot of these players are probably going to take a very well-deserved break, now is probably the perfect time to start playing in these sort of smaller community events. And again, hey, who knows, maybe you might be the person next year winning your own small chunk of change in the Blaston Championship Finals. I do believe that we have our first match. They're currently going through their lag test. That everything is working correctly.
Great.
And we'll be getting into things.
Oh, we're live.
Here.
We're in.
Oh, man. Oh, it's live. Oh, it's live. Oh, no.
We're playing the game.
Oh, no, it's live. Oh, no. All right.
Okay, it's just like that. That was 21 seconds for Weso to take down Woody, and
I still don't quite believe, but we'll wait on the actual tournament personnel to go ahead and make that call. But yeah, checking out the builds here, kind of going into a little bit more depth while we get the calm before the storm. You know, we were talking about how the Hammer Ellipse yesterday, kind of one of those very general purpose weapons, you know, very, very good all around. We do see Weso actually flossing here, showing off his dancing skills.
Nice work. Now it's live, huh? Okay, yeah, now we're in.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and using that Bursting Raptor as sort of a replacement for the very high cooldown Hammer Ellipse, sort of setting up hazards on the field. Oh my goodness, Woody taking an absolute ton of damage, mostly from that extra spread Hammer nade.
See the two very different speeds on their Hurricanes there. They're both falling down. Woody in big trouble. Okay, hold on. Weso is suddenly as well. The Luma's still there. But dodges it.
And Luma, and I believe there's one shot left in that Luma. Woody's got to be careful.
Weso just trying to make sure that Woody can't easily get things going. The shot lands on Weso.
Oh, no! Weso, you got to watch the shoulder. Oh, gotta watch the shoulders there, Wes. Woody's gonna go ahead and take round 1.
3, 2, 1. Blast on.
Alright,
They pick up first here. Yeah, the Hurricane there right away. Weso's got his Luma looking for some shots.
Just a little love tap there from the hammer nade. And yeah, both these players really poking, really just trying to get each other moving, trying to get each other tired.
It's very similar action going on right now, and you can see the utility of having fast versus slow. There's utility in both, certainly. However, Woody was able to move forward past the Hurricanes, try to get some shots in there. No dice.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, Woody not even bothering with the setup there, just going straight in and managing to get paid off for it. I'm also very interested in the fact that Weso is grouping up those Hurricanes. It seems like on the bottom left-hand side of Woody's podium. Really trying to get big hits out of nowhere rather than spread things apart like Woody seems to be doing with his Hurricane.
Yeah, you can see he's definitely got a different spread on what he likes to go for there.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Luma and that hammer nade. Although Weso's really got to watch out. Woody is firing back with his own Luma. Oh no, and the Hurricanes are going to take it again! And Woody is going to take game 1.
We're in a 1-3 here. If you were watching the EU Grand Finals, you saw that was a 1-4. That's longer. We're in a 1-3 stage right now. As we discussed earlier, this is about either moving on or being eliminated at 5th place. Difference between $250 for 5th place or minimum $750 if you move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did see there again. I talked about it very briefly yesterday, but players really trying to set up hazards, trying to punish movement, and then going in with their high damage dealing weapons. And it seems like that's what scored Woody the win on both of those matches there. Setting up those Hurricanes, going in with the Luma, and not necessarily relying on the Luma to land, but rather just relying on having the, just having the Hurricane hit as Woody moves out of the way of that Luma.
Right.
So great plays there.
Yeah, he did a good job, too, at clearing stuff out with the Aegis Shield, something we saw him have a couple of times in there. His dodging was good for the most part, too. But, yeah, very close overall. That round, definitely close stuff. So I don't know if you're Weso, maybe he's gone back to change the loadout. But it didn't seem to me like the loadout was bad for him. I mean, again, it was close. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that he, managing to hit that much on Woody. And again, we talked about it yesterday, right? Not always jumping to changing the build, just kind of going and really just analyzing, how you were reacting to your opponent's build and just changing your physical actions. But I think that he could definitely make a swap to a little bit more in the way of hazards. That fast fall Hurricane, the slow fall Hurricane for Woody ended up being his primary hazard on the field, punishing movement. Weso, although he did have some ways of setting that up, again, with the fast fall Hurricane and with the Luma, he really was packing more of a punch than putting hazards on the field. I think he could definitely swap to something different. Or, maybe he's just trying to psych his opponent out. Maybe he's just trying to put his opponent on edge and get Woody to change his loadout instead.
Yeah, it is a really interesting aspect of the tournament here that you have the ability to switch even if you win. That makes it really difficult for the opponent to know what's coming up next, right? I mean, there are other esports out there that force the winner to not switch. But there's a little bit more dependability if you're the loser, that you kind of know what you're going to be playing against. But in this one, I really like the idea that even the winner can change, which means that there's just no certainty. You don't know what's coming up next.
Yeah, and of course, as much as this is the big bad Blaston tournament of the year, there are actually smaller tournaments where that is the rule, where only the loser can initiate the weapon swap, but both players then will still be allowed to change, just so that one weapon doesn't counter the other. And it does look like we're going to get into our second match here. It does look like Weso has made that change that we were talking about before, now bringing the Avalanche nade rather than relying on that hammer nade. Now, we saw this yesterday being used to actually punish dodging to the ground, having those beam cages land on the podium, and then basically setting that up as a hazard before going in with the rest of your combo. Doesn't seem like Weso's really focusing on that, but doing a good chunk of damage at the start of this match. There he goes in again. Again, really trying to fence off that back end. Ooh, the back end of the podium, forcing Wudi to the front of the podium, and then hitting him with that charge hammer for a good chunk of change.
Yeah, that definitely adds up right there.
And that extra ammo on Wudi's Hurricane actually seems to be doing him some favors, as Weso is sort of it's sort of causing interference, but Weso's projectiles actually go up slightly higher. Oh, no! Wudi is going to go ahead and get hit with one of those Hurricanes. Don't trust the damage readout. That actually does 14 damage a hit. So again, you know, not a huge difference, but still enough. And Weso's going to go ahead and take round 1.
I'm impressed by, on the one hand, how well Wudi dodges, how low and how comfortably he seems when he goes down. And at the same time, how Weso's able to nevertheless land substantial hits even as Wudi's down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we've been talking about it for the last 2 days, but just the physicality of this game and trying to play around being able to, you know, stay fresh and not get tired and keep that mental fortitude. You know, the players who are more efficient with their movements are naturally going to have less of an issue when it comes to playing these sort of extended sets, these extended tournaments that we see here. 30 seconds in, Weso's not taking a single point of damage from Wudi here.
No, and his own utility of having the straight hammer with the timing that he has as the Hurricane shots fall down, that's been big for him. He's landed some big combos for doing that.
Yeah. And he takes some damage again. Weso is another one of those players who can just dodge along the ground like it's absolutely nothing at all, it seems.
Shield out there for Wudi just in case. Oh yeah, you can really see his movement.
Seems to be less focused on using that avalanche nade for its ability to shut off the podium. Instead, just trying to force Wudi to the front of his podium so that he can run him up with either a Luma or with that charge hammer.
Wudi's dodging well. He has the Aegis shield there just in case. Time for him to play a little bit of offense, maybe? Yeah, he's trying to grab stuff, set stuff up. The Hurricane comes after him. He's got the Luma behind. But he's got to play D. Got to play D briefly. Okay, he does get chipped a bit.
Yep, that was actually a pretty risky grab for Wudi, but he managed to get out of it without taking much damage.
Okay, excellent movement right there by Weso. That was great. Just on top of stuff.
See him sort of doing those short little hops over most of the projectiles.
Oh, that was big! Oh! Him down! Weso is going to take the second game. We are tied 1-1.
Yep. Oh, man, that was great. Great show from Weso there. That definitely was a measured, calculated change to a build that I feel like really paid off. Again, you know, using those, using your weapons, even if they're not going to land, just to manipulate your opponent's movement and force them to be in the spot you want to follow it up with your high damage dealing weapons. I think that was great use of the avalanche nade there.
Yeah, you can see that really come into play a bunch of times, forcing his opponent into kind of funky situations. But again, also, you know, having the Hurricane shots fall down, having the straight hammer, which you could charge up sometimes, like that utility of stuff coming down from the top, being able to shoot straight up, that kind of bullet hell stuff really landed big time on his opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, the fundamentals. We really haven't talked too much, and I'm surprised. I would love to know the order of this weapon, too, on your list.
All right.
That Wildcat, the fast Wildcat that we've seen pretty much on every single build, doing 4 damage a shot. So for those of you watching at home, that's going to be equivalent of 1 normal hammer ellipse a bullet hitting for that fast variant. So really not doing a ton of damage, but we've seen everyone pretty much using that as, you know, just a consistent way to continuously force movement from their opponents, just sort of keep people jumping from side to side, and then also in conjunction with the Raptor Ellipse is sort of a 5-second quick burst of damage to really get your opponent moving.
Yeah, Wildcat is currently second overall. I'm not tracking the attachments. That's like a little bit too advanced for my basic spreadsheet. But yeah, the idea of the Wildcat in general, second overall, just behind, not even just behind, honestly. There's a separation between Raptor Ellipse and then Wildcat, but Wildcat is currently the second.
Yeah, which, again, not surprising me at all. And, You know, the other thing, too, as much as dodging is going to be really important, especially with all of these, you know, really small, low-collision projectiles, you know, the more these players can drop block, the less tired they'll be because the less they'll have to dodge. So, stuff you got to think about when you're in these sort of bigger tournaments. We are getting into match 3 now. Looking at Woody's build,
so hammer nade.
The only change that I'm seeing is the dropping of that hurricane and the addition of that that extra spread hammer nade.
Yeah, you're right. That is the change there.
Oh, I think it's gotta be a disconnect round right now. Gotta be a disconnect round. Right now. Yeah, looking at Weso's build again, not really changing too much here.
Yeah,
keeping that charge hammer, keeping that avalanche nade for the good zoning as a way to push Woody to the front of his podium. And of course, that straight Luma, again, we haven't really seen too much of that curve Luma. Most players making the choice of not even risking the curve, just using it for that straightforward and quick source of damage.
Weso getting into the right mindset even before the actual game starts right there, as you can see, dancing around, setting things up for himself mentally even before he gets in.
All right, we do see those beam cages.
Yeah,
is Woody going to fall for the trap? He does not. Ooh, okay, using the charge hammer to get rid of that hammer nade as well. That's great. A one shot from a 3-second weapon, certainly doing well against a 5-second weapon like the hammer nade.
Let's go, Weso, moving right there. Got to worry about the nade coming from his side.
Both of those weapons.
He's really waiting it out. He's waiting maybe for the whole combo to be there. He's setting it up instantly. Wildcat's there. He's still got the Luma by his side. He does get a couple of hits.
Yep. Off of that Hurricane again, doing 15 damage a hit. 2 of those is 1 Viper bullet. So it's oh no! Woody's stepping out of bounds! Oh no! Wesley's gonna go ahead and take round 1.
Oh, clapping his hands, trying to get his head back into the game. Weso in there as well.
Over here on the casting desk, we're like, yeah, these players must be getting tired. They really got to conserve their energy. Weso just showing us all up by just dancing, continuously doing jumping jacks. Between him and 24, we got more calories burned than the rest of fitness on Oculus.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Meta Quest.
Wildcat still behind Weso. Hasn't grabbed for it in a while. There it is. Forcing Woody down.
Oh! That was such great use of the shield there from Woody, just to then get hit by 2 Luma bullets. It's really going to be on him to get this back in this game 3.
Yeah, it's been a very good dodging by Weso, but even on top of that, I've loved his setups. He's waited well at times, although right now spending everything.
Yeah.
Yep, again,
Weso seems to be getting away with it without too much setup.
Yeah,
all things
totally.
Considered. Ooh. Actually tossing the nade below Woody, trying to catch him out there. Very interesting.
Here's some juggling, setting things up there as Woody, but he's still the one who takes the big damage. The Luma's there, Weso still got it. Woody able to get out of that way that time.
All right, great. Oh, great setup from Woody there. He can land some quick Luma shots here. He might be able to take the lead back in these last 30 seconds.
Plenty of time, certainly, especially with as much health as remaining for these players. Just a couple of shots can really be the difference, and maybe there's 1:20 on the clock now. Weso maybe slightly under where Woody is.
Woody wants to see absolutely
none of that. Setup. No, he takes
that avalanche nade.
Weso dodging it out. 5 on the clock here. There is a Luma in Woody's hands. And Weso just dodges well.
Very well played from Weso here. Gonna go ahead and take game 3. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff there from Weso. I think that change is really paying off for him. We were talking today, and I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody of the terminology we're going to be using because it's going to get a lot more important. Of course, damage, the weapon's damage is how much it does to other player characters. The weapon's collision is how much damage it does to projectiles and other weapons. And you actually could see there Weso utilizing that charge hammer, not just offensively towards Wudi, but also using it to clear out some of those clumps of the Raptor bullets that were heading towards him, sort of clearing a line of safety so that he could go ahead and scoot right through. I thought that was very well played there by Weso, managing to really sneak his way out of Wudi's bullet hell.
The change that Wudi went for there in terms of loadout, he went from the Hurricane into the Hammer Nade. And, you know, the idea of having a more targeted, timely nade right there, it makes sense, as we talked about before. That seems like the most go-to of the nades. We're seeing great utility out of the Avalanche as well on the other side. But that idea for Wudi to go to the Hammer Nade, you know, it didn't seem like it paid off terribly well. It didn't seem like it forced Weso into bad situations often enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And again, you know, most of the higher level players are preferring the higher damage dealing variant of that Hammer Nade, but leaves a big hole in the center. So if you can just not panic and not move too far out of the way, you know, it can sometimes be easier to dodge, especially when you're throwing it off at a distance. And most higher level players are going to grab any nades that actually come within their sphere of play.
Right.
So, you know, I gotta wonder if this is something where, you know, it's a calculated move here, or, you know, in order to replace the spot that Hurricane was taking up, which was more of a hazard, really, than a strict damage-dealing weapon, you know, maybe Wudi needs to swap himself to the Avalanche Nade, or possibly just go with a different variant of the Hammer Nade, either the slow Hammer Nade, make it more of a hazard, or possibly just even the base hammer.
Could be, yeah. I mean, when we saw him play yesterday, he had both the Hurricane and the Hammer Nade. I mean, he had both ideas simultaneously. This time he's swapping them in and out for each other. He'd have to obviously change some other stuff if that's the go-to, if that is his choice. But he looks like he's got the shield this time, which is not what he went for previously. So that is what he's added to this build, rather than having both the Hurricane and the Hammer Nade. Other than that, he's got the same, it looks like. So that seems like, for him, the big differentiator here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have to see how it pays off, because all things considered, you know, this was a very, very, very similar to the build that he ended up losing to Weso on in games 2 and, not in game 3, but in game 2 for sure. Also, another interesting thing, we have the Drunken Raptor Ellipse. We've seen kind of players dip in and out of that variant of the Raptor Ellipse. It's going to make your shots faster, but each shot is sort of given a random amount of wobbliness. You know, when this attachment first came out, there were a lot of players that were under the impression of, hey, if my opponent doesn't know where my shots are headed,
right,
how can they possibly dodge it? But I think we've seen at this level more players just preferring to roll with what's safe. And just continue forward with the normal Raptor Ellipse that they can rely on, rather than going for this faster variant. So we're going to see how this pays off against Wudi here as we dip into match 4 of this series.
Okay, and he changes here, so he's gone back to the Hurricane. Has Wudi?
Yep, back to, okay. That was just a second lag test, just to keep us on our toes, I suppose. But yeah, heading back to the Hurricane, and I definitely think that's the right move, right? Again, being really intentional with your weapon choices. You know, and the role that he's trying to fill is that of a hazard. He wants to punish Weso's movement. That Hammer Nade really was not doing that for him.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't doing good, but it wasn't doing that for him specifically. Ooh, and Weso actually getting hit with that Luma right off the bat.
I'll say, yeah.
Wudi getting hit with the beam cage and 2 Lumas. Weso takes back the advantage on health. The pressure's going to continue to be on Wudi to get it back. He does manage to land a Raptor Ellipse shot and a Luma shot. That's going to bring things startlingly close here in the first 30 seconds. Weso's pushed up against that wall.
What a fast start to this game that we're seeing right here. Incredibly fast start. Weso trying to lay down some Wildcats. Here's Wudi underneath. Okay, great
Weso's
dodge.
got to watch that movement with those Hurricanes on the field. He takes damage from the Luma.
Setup will come out from Wudi.
Right,
from both.
Wudi wants to see
Staying
absolutely none of it, and does manage to polish it off with that fast Raptor Ellipse. Woody's going to take round 1 and push himself a little bit further away from being knocked out of this bracket.
Really good stuff by Wudi right there to be dodging right after he shot those shots. Great job keeping an eye on both sides of what you have to be doing here. He's dodging around, navigating. You can see him really moving all around his podium right there.
There you go. And again, Wudi really using his hurricanes to fence off the back. I would say the back file of Weso's play area is going to get hit with that avalanche shade. That hazard's going to continue to do damage over time. Wudi takes about a quarter of their health bar in damage from that one nade. Make it a little bit harder for them to get it back here, but by all means, probably only a 15 health difference here.
Oh yeah, it's close, especially as we saw in last game how fast things can change. If the proper setups come out, if the mix-ups are good. Luma in hand for Weso. He's got the Hurricane to set it up.
And again, I'll call it out again. It's hard to even see because Weso makes it look absolutely so natural. But the drop blocks coming in to give him just enough space to move some of this bullet hell, move through some of this bullet hell. He's doing a great job with really managing the amount of projectiles he allows to stay on his play area.
The Raptor E trying to set things up. Oh, and he takes a ton of damage. Oh, you can see the cages right there.
The cages, it's a clump, and that's very deadly. If all of those are hitting at once, they're all doing that damage over time. Oh, there we are, and the weapon throw is going to polish it off. Wes is going to take round 2.
And not just that, but goes to match point. That was a crucial moment. We just discussed how fast things could change, and that was, huge for Weso putting here again at that point.
Ooh, okay, Wudi taking a Hurricane shot and one of those Raptor Ellipse shots. Again, the pressure's really going to be on him to have to take this back.
Wudi already down. Go, trying to set something up. Okay,
fully around, get a good feel about where those Hurricanes are going to land and plan for it.
You know, but even as Wudi did get a couple of hits in on Weso, he himself took some going down further in life.
Yep. And again, anytime that you're taking your eyes off the front of the play area, it can be very risky. So Weso kind of managing that risk and still keeping his eyes on where those Hurricanes land.
Yeah, in fact, you could just see him actually grab behind himself while looking forward to grab that Hurricane out of its position. So he's doing a great job at keeping his eyes on the ball.
Yep, exactly.
Wudi in big trouble!
Landing the Luma. Wudi's in the red. He's got to take this back or else he's out of the tournament.
Tries to set something up. Here comes the shot.
Oh, no! You got to look up, Wudi. You got to look up. Oh, no. And Weso is going to go ahead and take the win and move forward in this bracket. Good games. Good games. Wudi performing amazingly over these past 2 days, and Weso going to be moving forward. I think that was one of those rare examples of where a small weapon change actually did manage to determine that matchup for Weso.
Yeah, just going to that avalanche nade, right? That was a huge change that he made, and you could really see in that last game, it came up as big as it did in any of the others, where it really chunked down Wudi, so badly that one round. That was a tough thing for him to come back from, and he couldn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, and as hard as it may be to believe, this is actually, the avalanche nade used to be the dominant weapon in the entirety of Blaston. It used to have a much wider spread. It used to have a lot more projectiles and a very similar amount of damage. And yeah, if you hit that cluster of bullets all at once, it is very hard to come back from unless you immediately are moving out of those beam cages. So great job from Weso. Really called what he needed on the field. He needed that additional hazard. And again, really effectively using it to control his opponent's movement across their player.
Well, congrats again to Wudi. It's not where he wanted to end up, I'm sure, but he ends up at 5th place. That means he's at $250. Check out his content as well. WudiPlays. He's somebody who streams the game, puts a bunch of content up on YouTube as well. So hats off to him. And let's go now to Captain Fabulous, who's going to come in here and chat with us a bit about what we saw. What comes to mind first of all over there?
Sorry, I was looking for my sunglasses for so long and I just saw them in my head on the screen, so that's wonderful. First thing that comes to head is look at Weso's dodging. He's just slipping around the stage. He's really just a master of getting out the way of bullets in some of the most effective ways possible. But also, really what we saw in this game quite a lot was while dodging, both players will continue shooting at each other. It wasn't so much you dodge, I shoot, then you shoot, I dodge. it was constantly putting pressure back and forth. Obviously, some amazing Luma shots we've seen there. And as you guys were touching on, I do want to pay special attention to that Avalanche nade, because, as you said, Avalanche nade used to be the dominant force in the meta, and then it got nerfed, and then everyone was like, oh, it's useless now. But it's not. It's not useless. It's just not as good contextually as it used to be. It's still viable, as Weso is showing here now. Not just for, doing that amazing shots where you just land it, some great dancing from Weso we see, and it explodes, doing a huge chunk of your DAT HP, like we see there for a second. But also because if you throw it above, as I think you outlined during the cast actually, Oolong, when it comes down, it also can, if it misses the player, it will still hit the podium, meaning those ground dodges become much less effective, and just really make the floor a hazard, turn the floor into the floor is lava all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah, and how do you play around that when your opponent's so good at dodging? When you're so much in a bullet hell focus and your opponent's getting around all the bullet hell, what do you do?
Well, if you're sticking with bullet hell, it's really a case of execution. But if you want to do a loadout swap, something like a Super Majestic, you can't really dodge through a Super Majestic. Forces you to the front of the podium, or you switch to maybe a Lance build. Lances are just these big hazards that you can't really do much. Maybe throw out a Majestic nade as well, because that's a very low cooldown way of doing podium denial. And it's sort of the thing that you might want to try using against a player like Weso or like 24, as we'll see later on today, who are some of the best dodgers in Blaston.
We saw Woody change a little bit. He tried to go from Hurricane to Hammer Nade. He didn't think that worked. He went back to the Hurricane. Everything else was stable. Is there anything else that you would have felt might have been a better go-to, considering what he likes to play?
Well, biasedly, I'm going to say he should have picked up Vipers, because I love seeing Woody on Vipers, and he is a god of Vipers. But honestly, I don't know why he was having to choose between the Hurricane and the Hammerade, because I think that using both of them at the same time with that Luma combo, it's a very quick, powerful combo. If you throw the Hurricanes up in the air, probably wouldn't have a slow fall, would have a fast fall Hurricane, and then have that Hammerade to the side. It means that they've got to look up, they've got to look to the side. From shooting the Hurricane or activating a nade, that's a 3-second timer before they start hitting the podium. So you do them both at the same time, the opponent has 3 seconds to go, oh god, I've got to look around, and then you pick up the Luma. And that's when you just close it out.
That was a build that he had yesterday. He did have those two together. He had almost the same build today, except he put in the Aegis Shield instead of one of those. Do you have thoughts on whether that seemed like a good call?
Well, the Aegis Shield, I think, just shows that he was trying to go into it with a way of countering some of Weso's aggression. Weso is a weird player to analyze, because he kind of dances between very defensive in terms of his movements, because he's very good at dodging, and then also being very powerful on the aggression side of things. And he'll switch it up at a drop of a hat. The minute he thinks you're off balance, there's something he told me about a year ago, but I'm fairly sure it's still true. The minute he sees that maybe a player's got off balance or isn't where they should be positionally, then he will jump in to try and take advantage of that. Where a lot of players, a lot of top players, don't actually kind of consider those things necessarily.
Interesting perspective, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry, I went off tangent there. I think against Weso, though, maybe the Aegis Shield was just a thought that Weso's going to dodge a load of my stuff, so I need to wait to keep up and not losing so much health. Really, I think that I probably wouldn't have brought in the Aegis Shield, or maybe sub something else out. If we just look at his loadout here, I wrote them all down quite a few of those times. Perhaps getting rid of the Raptor 3, which I am a big fan of, or even getting rid of the fast Wildcat, if you want to put it in. I do love the Raptor 3, actually. It's hard. It's
absolutely.
losing your kids.